Spending review also delivers our commitment to schools with an extra £4.7 billion by 24-25, which combined with the ambitious plans we announced at the spending review of 2019 will restore per pupil funding to 2010 levels in real terms.
That is completely and utterly wrong. Actually, one of the first things I did as Chancellor in my first spending review in 2020 was to announce a new 10-year school rebuilding programme for 500 schools. Now, that equates to about 50 schools a year that will be refurbished or rebuilt. And if you look at what we've been doing over the previous decade, that's completely in line with what we've always done, about 50 or so schools a year refurbished or rebuilt. That's what I announced as Chancellor.
To be clear, the Department for Education goes to the Treasury and say, we need money to rebuild 300 to 400 schools a year, and you got what?
So while I was the Permanent Secretary, we got the funding to replace about 100 schools per year.
A third or a quarter of what you'd asked for?
Absolutely.
New information came to light relatively recently, and it's important that once it had that the government acted on it as swiftly as possible. Of course, I know the timing is frustrating, but I want to give people a sense of the scale of what we're grappling with here. There are around 22,000 schools in England, and the important thing to know is we expect that 95% of those schools won't be impacted by this. Around 50 schools have already been mitigated, another 100 are in the process of being so, and our expectation is in a matter of weeks the bulk of the remaining schools that will have this issue will be identified as well. Also important context to know that in many cases this could be limited to a single classroom, for example, so people should have a sense of the scale of what might be happening as well.
What was your reaction when you were told that?
So it's frustrating, of course, when for you the most important thing is the priority to be given to safety. If the Treasury, of course, have got a concern that there's never enough money for everything, but we were able to present them with really good data. We weren't just saying there's a significant risk of fatality. We were saying there's a critical risk to life if this programme is not funded. While I was the Permanent Secretary in 2018, a concrete block fell from the roof of a primary school. So it wasn't just a risk, it was actually starting to happen. This spending review was completed a year after I left the department, and I was absolutely amazed to see that the decision made by the government was to halve the school rebuilding programme, down from 100 a year to 50 a year.
To be clear then, in the department you were saying we need to rebuild 300 to 400. It became 100 a year, and after you left the department it went down to 50 a year.
Yes, to be clear, we know what's needed, 300 to 400. There's only so much capacity in the construction industry. There's disruption if you close schools and rebuild them. So the actual ask in the spending review in 2021 was to double the 100 to 200. That's what we thought was going to be practical in the first instance. I thought we'd get it, but the actual decision that the Chancellor took in 21 was to halve the size of the programme.
The Chancellor, of course, was at the time?
Rishi Sunak.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their arse and done nothing? No signs of that, no? You know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their arse, sat on their arse, sat on their arse. You know what, you've done a good job.